Western New York is known for its rugged beauty and the resilience of its people. Nothing could be truer about our 2015 Hall of Fame inductee, Richard Moldenhauer. Richard Moldenhauer was born and raised in Niagara Falls, New York. He was a busy young man and very active in sports. He was a three-sport letterman for cross-country, swimming, and track in high school, and swimming, track, and water polo in college. Rich attended Union College in Kentucky and then transferred to the University of Kentucky, graduating in 1967. He thought he was headed to UK law, but soon after registration, he was drafted. He graduated from Field Artillery Officers Candidate School and Jungle Warfare School and volunteered for service in Vietnam. While in country, he was a forward observer and then unit commander. After the military, he started his career with Penn Mutual and won the National Rookie of the Year award for number of policies sold. 5 years into his career, he became a general agent for State Mutual of America, where he built a 47-agent agency from scratch. In 1990, he joined Berkshire Life, and again from scratch, built an agency, becoming the 6th largest Berkshire Life agency in the country. But when Berkshire Life decided to merge with Guardian Life, his agents were offered one option: become members of the Guardian agency or lose their renewals. Alone with a modest buyout and no producers, Rich started over at age 56. In 2001, Russ Dwade, a field officer from Union Central, contacted Rich and encouraged him to place some business with the company. Rich did, writing a large case that qualified him for Summit. And the next spring, he and his wife Kathy joined the group at the Napa Valley Summit. Napa was great, and Kathy realized that she and Rich had found a home. She insisted he continue qualifying for Summit, which he did. Rich says that his career at Emeritus has been the most enjoyable part of his lengthy career. Things were going great until 2003. He was diagnosed with a life-threatening pulmonary illness. After 10 years of ups and downs, Rich underwent a double lung transplant in 2013. Now recovering nicely in Charleston, South Carolina, Rich said, "Without the underlying and continued support of family and friends, I would never be alive today. I am humbled and grateful." During his military and civilian careers, Rich has always been involved. He was a founder and supporter of the Dong Ha Orphanage in Vietnam, a member and officer in Kiwanis, a member of the VFW and the American Legion, a fundraiser for the Salvation Army, board member and treasurer of the Western New York Little Loop Football, a coach for youth soccer, and a board member and large gift chairman for Suburban Adult Services of Western New York. He also served on the Small Business Board of the Buffalo Chamber of Commerce. Rich is a member of NAFA, SFSP, the Association of Certified Estate Planners, and a 31-year member of the Western New York Estate Analysts. He is an alumnus of the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership at the University of Buffalo. He has qualified for Inner Circle twice and Summit 13 times, and has been a member of the Field Advisory Cabinet. He qualified 10 times for the National Management Award, is a 43-year qualifying and life member of MDRT, and a 13-year member of the Top of the Table. He is a gold-level knight. He has spoken at several leaders' conferences, and he spoke at the MDRT meetings in 2006 and again in 2012. Rich and his wife Kathy were married on August 13, 1971. She is a graduate of the Niagara University School of Nursing and was the chief breadwinner for the family in the early days while Rich built his business. She is active in the church, garden club, and dedicated to her grandchildren. Rich knows he would not be here today without Kathy to care for him. Family has always been the most important thing in Rich and Kathy's lives. They have 4 successful adult sons, great daughters-in-law, and 7 terrific grandchildren. The Emeritus Hall of Fame is an achievement that demands much of those who are chosen. Inductees must show excellence in business practices, outstanding community involvement, and most importantly, that they have earned the respect of their peers. Richard Moldenhauer has proven that he has met and continues to meet these demands. said, Rich, recently, in life we are known by how we live, remembered by those we help, and measured by what we leave behind. I'm appreciative of this honor and hope in the future to earn it. The Emeritus Life Insurance Corporation is proud to induct Richard Boldenauer to the Hall of Fame.
Rich, would you and Kathy please join us on stage? Rich, we congratulate you on your career and welcome you to the Hall of Fame. The podium is yours.
What an honor. This has got to be one of the best things that has ever happened to me in my career, and I just appreciate it. It's a very humbling thing. I've been down this road before. I was talking to my old friend Charlie Nolan this morning, or this afternoon, I guess, and we talked about the fact that I was within 6 months of making the Hall of Fame at State Mutual, and then they fired me. Then I was within 3 or 4 months of making it at Berkshire, and they merged with Guardian. And I said, God, something's going to happen. I'm not going to get here. And, so it's 3 strikes and you're out, or maybe the third try is where you really succeed. I'm just so appreciative of being here. Thank you for allowing me this honor. It's just a big deal. Before I get into my talk in general, I want to thank some people. Some of you know, can you hear me back there? Because I'm not near the microphone, and I only have one vocal cord. I'll tell you about that maybe. But it was during my operation. They paralyzed the other one, so I've got half a voice. But I think I'll be okay. I haven't been around much the last 2.5 years. I feel bad about that. But it's really neat to be back. I guess if I were to talk about this, some of you, and I'm going to talk about a few people in particular, have helped get me through the toughest 2+ years of my life. Joanne, for example, Joanne Martin, she was always interested in how I was doing. I don't know how many company presidents go out of their way the way she did to look in on me. I mean, I got to tell you something. I was shocked. And then Steve Valerius, Brett and I have made a transition just before all this started to happen. Well, we saw it coming. Actually, I've been ill for about 13 years. So I've been with Emeritus 15 years, and I've been ill for 13 years. So most of you have never known me when I was well. It's kind of scary when you think about it. But whenever we had a problem, Steve Valerius would jump through hoops to help Brett and I make sure things worked out. And you never know when you're going into something like this. It's not something you plan for. And I got to talk about one other guy at the home office. I apologize. I should have some pictures up here, but I didn't think about it. John Gephardt. Old John would call me 2 or 3 times a week. I'm in a hospital some of these times. I'm in rehab, and I'm under sedation, and he would call just to cheer me up. I don't know how many people would do that, but wonderful folks. You know, and beyond that, many of you in the field have reached out to me during this period of time, and I really appreciate it. You know, one of you, Mike Wilcox, I mean, Mike even flew in to see me one time. It was wonderful. You know, my good friend Steve Bruno, John Tickle, R. David, they all stayed very, very close to me throughout this thing. And I'll be candid with you. I didn't know I'd ever come back. I didn't know I'd be here. So I feel just so grateful just to be here. You know, it's tremendous. Talked about my history a little bit. By the way, you know, under Brett's leadership, our firm has grown 20% each of the past 2 years, when 90% of the time I was either hospitalized or in a rehab situation. You know, it's just so great. I didn't have to worry about that. You know, and the cooperation we've got from Emeritus, you know, most companies, guys, you're only as good as your last application. They don't really bother. And I've seen this in my career in the past, and I'm sure some of you have. But the exciting thing is, this is a company that really cares about its people. Now, and we've got to feel good about that, because there isn't a lot of that in the world today. There isn't a lot of that in the world today. You know, one of the slides up there, you know, I guess pictures show that I was in the military before. You know, by the way, I was a reluctant draftee. I did not volunteer to go in the Army. This is true. But there was the draft in those days, and I had graduated somewhere down the middle of my class, and I had excellent LSAT scores. So I got into law school. I figured, well, that's where I'm headed. They're not going to bother me. Son of a gun. First day of school, I get my draft notice. I spent that winter at Fort Dix. It was miserable, miserable. You know, in fact, I was in a group called McNamara's 100,000. There were people that were let out of jails and stuff because they'd run out of soldiers. I was the only guy there with a college graduation behind me, and it was incredible. But you know, it was so bad, I said, you know, I'm going to volunteer to become an officer and go to Vietnam. Best experience of my life. A bit tragic, sad, but I wouldn't have given up that experience for anything. Matter of fact, my doctors say probably the reason I got my lung condition was because of Vietnam way back then. But still, you know what? For me, it was something I had to do, and I felt it was a worthwhile part of my life. But when I got out of there, you know, I had some issues. My dad died at 46. I had a brother who was 11 years old, and instead of going back to law school, I decided to stick around and get a job. I had no desire to go back to Buffalo, New York. I'm not sure anybody would ever want to go back there. But I did. And, you know, I worked, you know, I realized, I wasn't the most talented guy. And, you know, by the way, Mike Wilcox and I talk about this all the time. That's why he likes me, because he says, you know, you have to work twice as hard just like I do. And that's true. A lot of us have had to work exceptionally hard just to get there. And I was fired in my first year. Matter of fact, 3-4 months into my year, a guy walked up and he said, Rich, you better get a job in banking or with Carnation or somebody, because you'll never sell anything. He said, we're suspending your comp. And Kathy and I were getting married 2 months later. You know, so she's out there working, and I come home and I say, you know, Kathy, I just got fired. She said, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. She said, can you sell insurance? I said, I think so. She said, then call that SOB back and tell him you'll work for nothing. And I did. It was incredible. You know, I got lucky. See, I had a lot of mentors in my career, but none early on. You know, I found an MDRT proceeding in a closet of my little agency that I worked in. And I read it cover to cover. And I learned so much about, you know, taking those extra knocks, you know, and really sticking with the game plan. You know, at the end of the first year, Penn Mutual called me up on the stage and said, "You have written and paid more life applications than anybody else in the country who was hired in the last 14 months." I mean, it was remarkable. I had no idea what I was doing, but yet I was being successful. And the key to the thing is, if you apply yourself in this business, you don't have to come from a rich family. You don't have to be the smartest guy in your class. All you've got to do is want it, and you can have it. You can have it. I hope I don't tell you things you don't want to hear, but, in my first agency, I had 47 agents when I got fired. It was exciting. I loved it. Honest to God, it was the greatest time of my life because I was affecting all these people that were helping all these other people. And what a powerful, powerful job for a very young man. But you know what? You can't control everything. You can't control everything. But I did learn something. I learned that if you brought in people and you helped them and you coached them and you trained them, and then when they got sick and cried and wanted to quit, if you helped them out some more, that you could retain and survive and even succeed a lot of people. We recruited in those 20-some years that I was in management. We hired over 150 people. Today, I know that at least 40 of them are in the extended industry, successful, doing well. As a matter of fact, one of them's in this room, Sam Mataro. He didn't come, But Sam was one of my hires back in those days. And what a wonderful way to start a career. But just something to think about. So working harder, and a lot of people say, well, how did you do this? And what would you tell me to do if you were advising me? See, I got into the seminar business not to sell. I got into to recruit. I found that if I could get a bunch of people in a room, tell them about this wonderful business, that some of them would want to come in. And it was crazy. Every month that would happen, and I would almost always lead the company in the number of hires I brought into the business. Now, I got to tell you something. It's a double-edged sword. Because once you bring them in, you got to train them. Well, I won't bore you to death, but when I got fired and lost my Berkshire agency, I had no idea what to do. I thought about going to Montana. Now, I love to fish. And I haven't been able to do it for 2.5 years at all. But I thought about going out there, buying a fishing lodge. I figured, well, what the heck? And then I started realizing that if I started taking my love, my favorite thing to do, and made it my job, it wouldn't be any fun anymore. What was I going to do? Now, I had children in college. My wife said you only had one at that time, but we just got done with 3 of them. And nobody went to cheap schools in our family, That's how we decided where we were going to go to school, which ones cost the most. By the way, if you see my kids around, you'll realize it was a good idea, and I'm so proud of them all. Wonderful people. I have the greatest family. If you knew where I came from, you wouldn't believe it, but I have the greatest family, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but I want to just finish that with the seminars. People say, how did you guys build your firm over 15 years to where it is now using a simple system? And we've been in the seminar business for 15 years, and we ain't getting out of it. People come, they love us, they bring their friends. 90% of the people that come to us now are referrals, but they have to come to the seminar before we talk to them. But it works for us, and Brett is just doing such a spectacular job that he said, Dad, you don't ever have to come back to work, and I'm going to keep paying you. Well, I miss the job, I really do, but, it's been fun. It's been fun. Now, I think that one of the things that I learned going through the medical experience, I didn't plan on this happening, but in 2000 and late 2002, I developed a cough and I couldn't breathe. And I went to my doc. I said, you know what? Here's what my symptoms are. And he said, I think you just have a cold. Now, my mom was she was the oldest teacher in Niagara County in New York. 81 years old, still teaching school. She had a stroke. So we had to put her in a nursing home, and, God bless her, she worked so hard. But she didn't last long. But in February, Mom had died, and we come back from our condominium down in St. Simon's, and I said, let's go see a pulmonologist. And we walked in this doctor, his name was Durante. I thought it was Jimmy Durante's son or something, And in 10 minutes, he said, you have a condition that's going to take your life within 2 years, so go home, clean up your affairs. This is early 2003. How scary, huh? Quick diagnosis. So we went home and went to the Cleveland Clinic. And they said, you do have this condition, but we think we can treat it. And for the next 10 years, the treatment worked. You notice I looked at those pictures of me. I was skinny, then I was big, then I was skinny, then I got big again. But that's the medication. We were on chemotherapy and prednisone, which if any of you have been on, it's not nice. But in 2012, we came to a realization. And the realization was that I wasn't going to be around much longer. And Kathy and I were down at a condo for the winter, and she convinced me to go to Duke Medical, and they put me on a program, and they took me in the lung transplant program. Now, this is really not something you hear a lot about. I don't know if you know anybody who's had a lung transplant, but it's a big deal. It's scary. But I didn't have to worry about it. I really didn't have to worry because I had a son running my business. We were making money. Things was good. It was very good. And I couldn't, I wasn't happy, obviously, but I was at peace. When you get to that juncture in life and you realize all the things that you've done, that you've helped other people, and your life has been good, and your kids have turned out right, you can face the future no matter what happens. You can face the future. And, we went through hell. I don't know how my wife, she had come out by the way of, I shouldn't say this because I didn't get permission, but a year before I got diagnosed that I had to have the transplant, she had brain surgery. And so here she's out of brain surgery a year, and I have to go in and have this major operation. But for the 2 years that since then, she's not only been my wife and done a spectacular job, but she's been my caregiver. And you know what? It's a big job to take care of somebody who's as sick as I was. But we got through that time. And, just looking forward to coming back here has been so important to me. So important, because I don't think my life's work is done. I think we're just starting. We have new ideas and things we're going to do. But, the truth is, the challenges are ahead, and now I'm well enough to start tackling them. And here I am. I've gone from being on death's door a year ago to having my whole family at this meeting and receiving this honor, which I probably don't deserve, but I'm so grateful just to be here. It's been terrific. We're talking about opening an office in Charleston. Now, our office is in Orchard Park. So we're hoping to have 2 of them going forward. And I think we'll keep growing this business. With Emeritus, I think all of us have a future. I think all of us have a bright future. And it's amazing. It's amazing how much this company cares. Ladies and gentlemen, I know there's so much more I want to say, but to be very honest with you, I'm afraid to push my vocal cords much more. I just want to wrap this up by saying thank you to all you that have come to me and said, gee, we're happy to see you back. I'm so grateful. And you know what? I'm going to be at Miami with you next year, and who knows, maybe I'll even do a little better. But I thank you very much for listening to me. God bless you, and let's move on, okay? Thank you.